Welcome to Something to Say, where we bring voices from diverse backgrounds who will share their unique stories and perspectives on finding their passion and provide insights on how you can find yours. Join us as host Greg DeShields guides us through this enlightening journey.
Welcome to Something to Say podcast, Season 3, a unique platform that amplifies the voices of individuals from various backgrounds sharing their passion. I'm your host, Greg DeShields, and I am pleased to bring you another exciting episode. Thank you for joining us. And today we welcome LaWana Boone, a global travel professional, cultural humility consultant, dynamic speaker, and storyteller dedicated to helping people connect across cultures with empathy and intention. LaWana is the CEO and founder of Cultural Humility Consulting, where she partners with organizations and audiences to bridge cultural gaps through workshops on openness, respect, and meaningful dialogue. With over 3 decades in aviation as an international flight attendant, she has quite literally flown around the world. Her lived global experience also includes studying abroad in Ghana, Cuba, Honduras, and Costa Rica, giving her a powerful firsthand understanding of cultural complexity and global interconnection. In addition to leading her consulting firm, LaWana is an author and adjunct professor who speaks and teaches on inclusive leadership, global awareness, and intercultural understanding. She holds a bachelor's degree in English, an MBA in marketing, and a graduate certificate in African literature and diversity and inclusion. Through engaging storytelling and transformation facilitation, LaWana inspires people to travel with intention, reflect deeply, connect authentically, and grow both personally and professionally. Welcome, LaWana. So, LaWana, I am so excited to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. It took us a minute, but we finally connected.
We did. I'm so anxious to begin this conversation and dive into all the work that you do, from the work as a flight attendant, as a professional speaker, a travel writer, and an adjunct professor. There are just so many things to talk to you about today. So I'm glad we'll have this opportunity to share those thoughts. And I'm sure for you, this particular kind of experience will allow you to kind of bundle all that together.
Sounds good.
I also know, as we think about how we engage with individuals who are guests on our program, that they are involved with so many different aspects of industry. And I think in your particular case, your involvement in the tourism industry is priceless because you see it from so many different ways. So I really want to dive into that through a lot of the various ways of which you engage in industry. But when we begin all of our conversations, what we like to do is spend time to get to know you for the benefit of our audience, that they have a little bit more of an opportunity to make a personal connection. So we'll start with some icebreaker questions. So are you okay with that?
Certainly.
All right. So let's begin with the one that is one of my favorites. It takes us back a ways, but it's always interesting. So, what is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory, I think it's road trips with my grandparents, my parents, and my two brothers, my two siblings. We took so many road trips growing up. That was just the thing. You pile in my dad's Cutlass Impala, and we would just take road trips. My grandmothers would make all of this food, and we would just get out and look at a place on the map and go for it. My grandmothers, my maternal and my paternal grandmothers, were great friends. They bonded over us. They doted upon us. We were the only grandchildren on either side, so they just poured all this love into us. And we would go on these road trips, and my parents had their babysitters with them so they could go out on the town. And it was just a great way to see the United States, to bond with family. And those were some of my earliest childhood memories with my family that really stand out to me. And I really think that those road trips really gave me the travel bug that I have today.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's clear as we ask that question how there is a strong connection to those fond childhood memories and what people do today. And obviously, for you, those road trips are so incredibly meaningful. And it's much more than just work. It's, I guess, part of your DNA in the way that you're able to kind of see the world. So, congrats on that. All
Thank
right,
you.
so shifting gears just a little bit, and this is once again just a way for us to allow for our audience to get to know you better. So, what was your biggest failure, and what did you really learn from that experience?
I'm laughing because this is not something that I share often, but I guess now is the time. My biggest failure, believe it or not, would be I flunked out of flight attendant training.
Oh,
Yeah, I failed a test, a CPR test, and I flunked out of flight attendant training, and it was devastating. I had told all of my friends and family, "Hey, I've got this great new drop job. I'm off to flight attendant training. I'm going to see the world and travel." I got there and flunked out based upon the CPR test. And it was absolutely awful. I had packed up all of my things. I had moved out of my apartment. I had sold my car. So everything was riding on this. And I failed that test. And they basically tap you on the shoulder and tell you, come with me. They take you back to the hotel. When they get you to the hotel, they say, you have 1 hour to pack your belongings. You pack your things. They put you in another van and they give you a one-way ticket.
oh,
So it was really, really cold, and I was devastated. Not cold in temperature, just a cold process.
mhm.
And like I said, you're young and you invest so much into it. And I had nowhere to go. I had left my apartment, and so I called my parents and said I'm on my way. And by the grace of God, I had parents who always kept the door open for me. And I came home, and I had to start over from scratch with no car, no job, and just basically pretty much devastated over such a blow. However, I learned from that, and I didn't let that define me or just let that determine my journey. I knew I wanted to be a flight attendant. I knew I'd be an excellent flight attendant, and I continued to keep on applying for jobs. And here I am, 30 years later.
Wow. Well, let me just start by saying thank you so much for sharing that story. And that is truly the purpose of this podcast is for individuals to learn about those who we interview and what they faced in their life and how even what may seem to be a completely devastating turnaround in fate that you're able to find and navigate your way still to your dream. So I congratulate you for that and I really thank you for sharing that. And I don't know, I guess to some degree it probably everything you do probably feels sweeter because you had an opportunity to say, no, this is my journey.
Exactly. I wasn't going to accept that no. And I don't think there's anyone out there that's successful that hasn't had failures. So it just comes with the territory. But the thing is, how do you bounce back? How do you recover? How do you turn those lemons into lemonade?
Well, no wonder you are a speaker. We'll get to that a little bit, but you are so convincing in your tone. All right, so this particular question is one that has been embedded in our program since we began, and it's a very insightful one, and I'm curious to hear how you will respond to it. So, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
I always dare to be different. So I think I would actually have a dinner party. And at that dinner party, of course, myself, I would invite Pat Banks, Ruth Carroll Taylor, and Bessie Coleman. All of these women were pioneers in aviation, and they opened doors for women, Black women, and women of color to come through. And I would have a dinner party with them, and I would just listen to their stories, listen to their struggles, what they had to overcome to break those barriers. And I would share what aviation is like for me now. And I just think it would be a great dinner party for us to learn from one another. And more than anything, I would thank them. I would thank them for opening those doors. And especially during Women's History Month, I would go out of my way to show my appreciation because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow. That's an amazing story that you shared. And it is quite appropriate for this particular month. But I also want to emphasize how important that story is to me. I'm currently working with the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, and the curriculum that I've developed puts an emphasis on telling the Black story in the tourism and hospitality industry. And those three women that you just identified are at the core of why I developed that curriculum. These are individuals who paved the way for others and were such incredible pioneers during the course of their time. So I thank you for sharing that story. And we will, without any doubt, add this particular podcast to my curriculum so that the students.
Awesome. And let me just add to that that there's a PBS documentary by the name of Fly With Me, and it offers a lot of insight about those women. Pat Baker, for example, she really fought to get her job with Capital Airlines because they wouldn't hire at first, because they would not hire a Black woman. And then also with Carol, the same thing. She got a job with Mohawk Airlines, I believe in 1958. So they really, really went through a lot. So if you get an opportunity, review this PBS documentary by the name of Fly With Me, and it offers so much insight on some of the hardships they faced and how they overcame, how they were able to finally kick down that door and open it for myself and my peers.
Wow. Well, it's the second session of my class, so trust me, we will share not just your insights, but we'll add that as a required viewing of the students.
Okay, awesome.
Now, I knew chatting with you was going to bring me down so many paths that are so interesting. So I'm going to ask a few more questions to help the audience get to know you. And then we'll dive into the rich knowledge and insight that you have. I think that, though, brings an interesting question up about you as an individual. How big is your inner circle?
My circle is small. I mean, tiny. I laugh because I'm a Generation X, and I think the older we get, we lose a little more patience and just are, just like, hey, I'm not putting up with this, I'm not putting up with that. And I'm a really, really supportive, loyal, trustworthy friend. So I expect that to be reciprocated. And so when I see that's not how a person is, I back away. So basically, my circle is very, very small by design. The few people that are in my circle, once you're in, you're in. I trust you. I got your back. But yeah, once you're out, you're out. Yeah, but
No,
lots of associates, but very few close friends.
it's interesting. So many people, as they evolve in their careers and in their life, that inner circle does get that much smaller. I also find it interesting how some people identified as their front row. And I just love that phrase because it really identifies, as you think of that front row of people who are in your life, who are kind of watching your life as you live it, they're the ones who will be trusted to tell you, you didn't really nail that scene, or you really
Yeah,
killed it, that kind of insight from
there's
them.
lots of people in the balcony, but very few in the front
That's
row.
true.
Mezzanine, but not that front row.
All right, so this is a question I was also wondering how you would respond to it because you're such an incredibly confident person. But who has had the most influence in your life?
My parents, absolutely, hands down, my parents. My parents gave me a great foundation. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, Southern, and they just gave me a great foundation. And growing up, yeah, sometimes we stray a little right, a little left, but that foundation, that love, that support that they gave me growing up, I attribute it to the person I am today. So yeah, definitely my parents. My dad was hardworking man, worked one job overtime or two jobs. My mom was a stay-at-home, hands-on mom. So yeah, my parents gave me a great foundation, and I appreciate that to this day and attribute everything to them.
Well, so I'm curious to just expand on that question a little bit more. And it's very impromptu to ask you this, but as I think of how you were developing your aspirations in your career, how did your parents feel about you pursuing a career in the travel tourism
I would say my dad was indifferent. My dad was probably, "Hey, just get some money, get a job."
industry?
Just being a hardworking man. My mom, not so much. She did not like the career of being a flight attendant. She did not like aviation. She's a very fearful flyer herself. So she always sees like more of the, I see the glass half full and she sees it half empty,
Mm,
especially as far as traveling. So she's very different from me. However, growing up, I just had the idea that I didn't want to work. I would say like people of my generation, it was like the in my particular town, the factories or working a 9 to 5 at the same place forever until you basically drop dead. And I just didn't want that. I wanted a fun job. I wanted to be a cruise director like Julie on the Love Boat, or I wanted to be a flight attendant. And I was going to fulfill that. And I remember even back then going through the yellow pages and looking up I was just like driven and focused, looking up the different addresses and sending my resume to TWA and Braniff. And if you remember any of those old names, Eastern, and saying to myself, that is going to be me. So I just stayed steadfast and focused. And even though we talked about that setback, I kept going. I kept going because I knew it was what I wanted to do.
Congrats. I want to build a little bit off of that other question I'd asked you about setbacks. So, when was the best year of your life, and when was the worst year of your life?
That's a super easy question. The best year of my life was the year 2000. I had boy and girl twins, and I was so surprised. I didn't know twins ran in my family, and to my surprise, to find out that I was having boy and girl twins was really, really super, super exciting. They're actually 26 years old now. But yeah, that was the best year of my life. Unfortunately, subsequently, that was also 2000 was the worst year of my life, the very same year. So I had a devastating situation happen. I found myself in a divorce and a very, very long, long custody battle that lasted for many years. But what that taught me was lots and lots of resilience, and to what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. So from that situation, I became extremely, extremely driven and focused and
Mm,
resilient. And I knew I was going to do nothing but continue to face forward.
wow. And you have done extremely well. And you are maybe the third or fourth person that I have interviewed who had the best year and the worst year all in the same year. So it's a pretty exclusive club, but those who've had that have all come out of it with the same thoughts that you just shared, that this makes you stronger and able to feel as though that you can address those things that you face. So, congrats.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, hey, I can conquer anything if I can get through that. So, but yeah, that is very strange. Same year.
All right,
Good
so
old 2000.
I have some other questions, but there are just some obvious things here on the screen that our audience would probably love to know. So
Okay.
let's first start with your attire. Tell me about what you're wearing and what it signifies. And clearly, you have a lot of pride in it. So the floor is yours. Tell me a little bit more about what you're wearing.
Absolutely. Okay, and I'll model the hands. This is my aviation retro uniform. And I wear mock uniform, not a real uniform. I wear this to my speaking engagements. When I talk to aviation groups or study abroad groups, international travel and culture groups, this is what I wear. It resonates with people, it gets attention, it demands attention in the room, and it pays tribute to those that came before me, the many women like those that I just mentioned, Bessie Coleman, Pat Baker, and Ruth Carroll Taylor. It gives pays homage to those people that came before me. And this is what I wear when I go to speak to groups. And it's just aviation inspired uniform. So that's why I'm wearing it today because I thought it would really resonate with your.
It definitely does. And thank you so much for not just sharing your thoughts by way of words, but the visual connection as well. I want to ask you a quick question about the travel industry. What are some of the misconceptions that you would want to clear up from what you see today?
I think one of the biggest misconception about being a flight attendant that you're there just to serve a Coca-Cola or a pretzel or bring a meal. You're a safety professional. We wear a multitude of hats in one flight, a 2-hour flight, a 3-hour flight, or a transatlantic flight. And that flight, you could wear 5 or 6 hats. You are basically 10 people in one.
Mm,
You can act as security. You can act as the nurse. You can act as the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the referee, the babysitter, the person who helps the senior that is, a flyer that is a fearful flyer. So you have so many hats that you can wear, and you have to have the ability to just flip this hat because you never know sometimes what situation you may encounter. Sometimes you may have a person who seems like a very, very kind person, and after a couple drinks, they change.
mm,
So, therefore, you have to have the ability to switch and pivot quickly to address whatever the situation is. And if you're on a flight with 100 or 200 people and they ring that bell, you're it. You're it until you can get a doctor to back you up, or a paramedic. You're it. You're the first responder right then and there. If there is a safety situation, perhaps an evacuation. So, so many people really think being a flight attendant again is about grabbing that soda for me, but you're actually a safety professional to make sure and ensure that the flight goes from point A to point B safely.
Well, I know there are a number of individuals who serve as flight attendants who do really hard work and are really appreciative of someone like you who helps to put it into context because you're right. It's so many different hats that they wear in order to continue to meet the demands of the traveling public. There was one question I wanted to ask you if I go back to when you were in flight attendant school. And as I recall back in like the Pan American days and that sort of thing, didn't you also have to pay for like uniforms or was there any financial investment in that process?
Things have changed, but way, way back in the day, yes, I do remember that we had to buy. That's funny you would bring that up because I actually had forgotten about it. We actually had to purchase, yes, our first set of uniforms. And I remember it was like, I'm thinking like at the time, like $2,000. It
Mhm.
was really an exorbitant amount for a young person starting out. And I also remember back in the day, they offered you a lovely loan to buy it. So yeah, that was a shock. So it was quite an investment. We didn't back in the day. We didn't even get food during training. We did get our lodging, but we did not get not even one meal a day. So I'm so happy for those newbies that have come after me that they actually do. Most trainings do provide them with lodging and food. So yeah, I do remember buying my uniforms. I would have forgot, and I paid that loan off finally.
So I could not let you go without asking that question. That was one that was burning through my mind. But listen, there's a stack of questions you gave. I shouldn't say a stack, but there's just some really interesting questions you gave. And I was so glad that you gave me this question because I always want to ask someone. So for those of you in the audience, hold your hat. So do you have a favorite destination that still excites you every time you go?
I do, I do, and This destination is unfortunately in the news a lot now. It's Doha, Qatar. I absolutely love Qatar. It is, and some people say Qatar, I say Qatar, tomato, tomato. But I love Doha. I love the vibe, the people, the food, the beaches, the museums, the outdoor market. The market's called the Souk, Souk, Souk. I'm sorry. I love just the whole vibe. It's just an amazing city. Everything is very, very modern. All of the buildings are just shiny and new and spectacular. It's a great city. I really miss going to Doha, and hopefully I can get back there again one day soon. But yeah, Doha excites me every time I go.
Well, when you have an opportunity to go, if they happen to give you 2 tickets, let me go because I'd love to go with you and check it out. So,
Absolutely. Yes, yes, please. We'll have
so
a good time.
to stay in that vein, which destination had the greatest impact on you and why?
I didn't go here with an airline. I've studied abroad quite a bit as well. I studied abroad in Ghana. I went to Ghana, and Ghana was it opened my eyes to so many things, so many connections, and I could see so many things in my own personal family that we do that I saw over there. So I love making connections. My family is Black American. We were part of the transatlantic slave trade. I ended up finding out that majority of my DNA from ancestry tracing is Nigerian. So it was really, really nice for me to get to West Africa and just to see the place of my lineage, my ancestors. So that was really an amazing experience for me. I learned so much. I was there for 2 weeks. And not only did we stay in Accra, we also went in the countryside. So that had a huge, huge impact on me. And that time will be with me forever.
Well, that is one of the interesting things about travel, because at the end of the day, it's the memory that lasts forever. Even though you might be in a beautiful, spectacular place, it's that memory that will be with you for the rest of your life. Certainly, if it has the opportunity to create a return visit, but clearly for you, it made a huge impact. And now for our listeners, I'm sure you've maybe incentivized some to maybe have a trip to go there as well. This is another question I thought was pretty interesting, especially in this climate today. So, what advice would you give someone who's considering a career in aviation?
I would tell them to go for it. Go for it. Fill out that application, get your resume together, and go for it. Is it a perfect job? Absolutely not. But are there any perfect jobs? No. But I would definitely say the pros absolutely outweigh the cons.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I would say go for it because travel is an education. I didn't go back to college. I went for a very brief time right after high school, very brief. And I didn't go back to college until I was in my 30s. And I ended up getting a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and two postgraduate certificates after that. However, I already had an education. I had an education in travel and culture. I had been exposed to so many places and people and cuisines and geography. It was basically just like it's an opportunity to do what other people only read in history books or only see on travel shows. So if you ever get an opportunity, even if you're a flight attendant, you don't have to be like me and stay for 30 years. Even if you're a flight attendant for 5 years, take that opportunity to see the world and educate yourself and realize that people are living so differently from your own particular small town or community. And I would encourage anyone that wants to see the world, become a flight attendant.
So, at various career days all across the country, you should be the keynote because you can certainly serve as an incentive for individuals who are really contemplating what it would be like if they were in that particular chosen career path. But I want to change a little bit because you have written a travel journal, which is entitled the Window Seat Journal, and it's for airline passengers. Can you tell us where did you get the idea for this? I think it's absolutely intriguing, but can you talk a little bit more about it and how you became, I guess, the person who now really shares that fantastic outlet?
Absolutely. I wrote the window seat journal because so many times my passengers walk up to me and ask, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? What time do we land?" And I'm like, take this journal, take some time, enjoy the flight, look at the clouds out the window, and enjoy the peace and just journal. It's a time to write in your journal and disconnect from your personal device, all the things that we have to do at work, 9 to 5 jobs with emails and constant Zooms. It's a time to just reflect and write about your travels, your past travels, your future travels, and just to create your own story in the journal. So I came up with it just from people being on the flight and asking me, "Are we there yet?" and wanting an answer. And I can't tell you we're there in 30 minutes when we've got 4 more hours to go. So, and it's a lot of times people depend on the Wi Fi when they're on a flight. Always have a backup, always bring a book to read or a journal to write in. Have something else to do just in case. Always expect the unexpected. So just have that resource for you with you. So I wrote that journal to give travelers something else to do.
Well, I just think it is certainly well, let me just say it resonates so much with me. And amongst the reasons why is I remember I was in Los Angeles and there was a huge exhibit with Delta Airlines. And they had someone who had been developing all these characters of different people when they travel. So as I was walking over to talk with the folks at the Delta booth, I received a call that my brother had passed away. And, I was trying to hold it together and everything. And I went over. So they sat me down in a simulated window seat. And, they were asking me a bunch of questions. And then when I told them what had happened, they said, "You need to write about it." And it was such a way of expressing my thoughts, given that it was going to be, a few hours flight back. But
Mhm.
everything you're saying was so relevant, that ability to have that seat by the window. And they actually did a image, and I'll send it to you that shows what it's like to sit in a window seat and to be making those kind of notes in a journal. So I thank you for sharing that because that is very true. And as I was sharing with people about your book and the idea, they were intrigued by it. So I'm going to be a big advocate and share more about it.
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that.
So one thing I also noticed on the screen is there are two letters above your head, CH. So the name of your business is Cultural Humility Consulting. And I wanted to ask you, what is cultural humility to you, and why should we really practice it?
Cultural humility is a lifelong process of self reflection and learning about other cultures. It's realizing that your way is not the only way. There's someone across the pond or even in an adjacent neighborhood that's doing something completely different, the same thing, but doing it unlike you. And cultural humility is respecting that other person's way of doing things, coming in without judgment and realizing that your way is not the only way, humbling yourself to respect another person's culture, race, sexual orientation, just their identity, and realizing that your way is not the only way. People have been doing this in this country this way for many years. And so many of us go to places placing our American lens on others. And that's not what we should do. We should humble ourselves and try to learn something new. So that's what cultural humility is. It's just a lifelong journey of committing to learning about other cultures.
Well, I'm so glad you give voice to that because in our society today that is really challenging such difficult times, getting clarity and understanding the impact of cultural humility can help be another vehicle that people can use or another item in their toolbox, kind of navigate the way life is today. All right, so I have two more questions for you. The next one, though, because I'm a big foodie guy, that I feel as though I can't let you go without asking you. So tell me about some international foods. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to try some things that might be a little scary, but we're probably
Oh my gosh, I am a foodie and food excites me. One of my dreams that I didn't tell you that it just dawned on me as the cruise director, flight attendant. I also wanted to be a chef and I wanted to go to culinary school. Never did that. And at this point in my life, I probably won't add anything else to my bucket list. But I love to cook. And what I do is I go to different restaurants in different countries and I get my spices and I try to emulate some of these recipes or some of the foods that I've tried abroad. So yeah, I am a foodie to the core. I love to try new places, but what I don't like, I want some of the food halls, some of the cruise ships, places to diversify a bit. Yes, I love Italian food. Yes, I love Chinese food. Yes, I love Mexican food. However, there are so many more cuisines out there that could be looked into when you create a food hall or the cruise ship food
buffet.
area, buffet area. Right, there are so many other cuisines out there. Why not Peruvian food? Do we ever see Peruvian food when we go out? Do you ever see Haitian food? I love Haitian food. They have so many bold flavors. Oh my gosh, it is delicious. I love Haitian food. I just have never seen any certain food groups represented. And I just wish there was more diversity when people create food courts. There's a place in London I go to all the time, and I just get this roti, and it's so good. So yeah, I just love eating international foods. Coming home, and they say don't try this at home. I try it at home. It doesn't always come out the same, but I do have those favorite restaurants all over the world that I can't wait to get back to. Even in the Mediterranean, I think about how they make so many salads with parsley and pomegranates. It's so many things that you would just never think of because you didn't grow up with it. I also think about bread. Every human on the earth has some type of bread. My family, we grew up with cornbread.
Mm.
However, there's Indian naan, there's French bread, there's Italian bread. There's so many types of breads, and if you just look at something as small as bread, there are so many ways to make bread. There's corn tortillas, and it's so many. They're all bread, but yet it's so many ways of doing things. And this takes me back to cultural humility. Your way is not the only way. Just because I grew up with cornbread and someone else grew up with another type of bread does not mean it's a right or wrong. However, if you get out and you explore, you see there are so many things out there that would open your eyes and mind to other cultures. And food is a great way to break down barriers
Uh,
and to create friendships and kinships with people all over the world.
well, I know as you travel, it encourages, or in some cases, it forces you to try different foods. And I'm so glad that you pointed that out to our audience because that's the added benefit of traveling internationally is that it really puts you in a position where you not just experience different places, but you have a chance to taste them as well. All
Lovely.
right. So, as I thought, you and I could talk forever, and I guess you're probably like a part two podcast. But for right now, one of the most important questions that we like to present as we close our podcast interview Is the podcast is entitled Something to Say. So I will ask you, what do you have to say?
I would have to say, get out and explore. Open your mind to travel. It does not even have to be across the pond. You can travel to a neighboring community and get to know someone different from you and get to understand where they're coming from and how they feel about life and values. And you will discover that when you get to know people from different walks of life, you'll realize that you have so much more alike than you have differences. So get out there and travel and explore. I have a map behind me, as you can see. Find the place on the map, save your money, and try to get there and just learn about other people. Again, you will find you have so much more alike than you have differences.
Wow. Well, I thank you so much for sharing that insight. And that is, once again, the reason why we enjoy producing these podcasts and the sites that we are able to gather from individuals who are our guests are priceless, and it really helps people to be motivated. And your thoughts and the passion that you've shared has certainly made a big difference on me, and I'm sure as our listeners take an opportunity to listen to this podcast, they as well will be motivated. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Greg, and I look forward to that trip to Doha with you.
I know, count me in. So, audience, this is a wrap for this episode of Something to Say podcast. We encourage you to stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with the voices of individuals from diverse backgrounds sharing their passion. So, until next time, this is Greg DeShields.
Thank you for tuning in to Something to Say. We trust you found some valuable insights and takeaways that can help you find your passion. Don't miss out on future episodes. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on your preferred platform. We value your feedback and suggestions, so let us know how we can serve you better. Keep the conversation going and stay inspired until we meet again. Take care and happy listening.